All right, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Motivation Everything Show. I am Cody Cottle. I am your host, and this week I have an incredible guest that we're going to dive deep on unlocking your creativity. Guys, if you are live right now watching this, drop live below in the comments. Let me know you're on here. Drop where you're tuning in from. I want to know who's live. I want to know who's watching. And help me give a warm welcome to our special guest that we have tonight, Mr. Casey Thornton. I'm going to tell you why this guy is so incredible, and I worked so hard to get him here on the show. He is a leadership, life, and business strategy coach. Casey has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs get clarity and commitment to creating the life of their dreams. I would even say thousands by now, right, Casey? You've been doing this for a while.
Count, bro.
With a deep study of personal development and professional certifications in Neuro-Linguistics Programming, if you know NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnotherapy, Casey packs the perfect balance of practical knowledge and real-life experience. As a lead coach of Life on Fire and Legacy Builders Mastermind, Casey's mission is to help people discover the purpose and passion that is already on the inside of them, unveil to the world, and create a significant impact along the way. Casey also served in the U.S. Navy for 5 years. Thank you for your service, brother. As a helicopter rescue swimmer, he competed in season 7 of American Ninja Warrior. How cool is that? And is sold out for unapologetically pursuing his passions and helping others do the same. Help me welcome Mr. Casey Thornton.
Oh, what an intro, man. Thanks for the hype there.
Absolutely, dude. We're honored to have you, Casey. I appreciate you being on the show. I know the value that you have to bring. And before we dive into unlocking your creativity, tell us, who is Casey Thornton and what is your story?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, man. First, I just want to take a minute and just, honor you and thank you for the opportunity for being on the show. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I've been in this industry for, a few years now, and literally seen hundreds of entrepreneurs go through this process of, stepping into entrepreneurship, really putting themselves out there. And I'd say the number one, or the one or two characteristics that I can identify that really distinguish the people that make it in this industry and the people that don't are consistency and perseverance. And what I've identified you, man, we're in a mastermind together. And one of the things that I can identify you is one of the most consistent people that I've ever met. And you're definitely one of those people that I see, watch where this guy's going to be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. Like, you guys are blessed just to be a part of his community now. And it's just an honor to be on here and get to dive deep with you today, man.
Man, I really appreciate those words, and I receive and honor them, especially coming from you, man. That means a lot. Thank you so much. But enough about me. Let's hear about Casey Thornton.
Come on, man. So I'm excited to share with you guys today. I got a lot of stuff on my heart. Whenever I get the opportunity to speak, it just helps to refine my message and just get it even more clear for me. So it's been just the last few days, I've been getting all these downloads and just really excited to share what's on my heart and the fire that I have for you guys today. So a little bit about me. I was in the military. I was a helicopter rescue swimmer in the Navy for 5 years, and I was stationed in San Diego. And then I didn't really know, transitioning out of the military, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, right? So I just knew that I didn't want to be told what to do anymore, and I didn't want to work for anybody anymore. So coming out of the military, I just kind of started on this journey of stepping into entrepreneurship and trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life? I wore my gold air crew wings that I wore on my chest. My entire identity was wrapped up in that job and what I did being in the military. And so transitioning out, I didn't really know who I was anymore. So I would say it was really a process of learning to, discover my identity separate from a job. And, it took a while, and really getting into personal development to discover that, my identity is not in what I do. It's not in a job title. It's not in a status. It's really my identity is in who I am and who, God says I am.
Amen, brother.
And I don't want to share the whole backstory because I want to be able to tie this into creativity and actually discovering the creativity. But long story short, I got involved with a personal development and coaching company called Life on Fire. I started working with a mentor. His name is Nick Unsworth, and through this process of discovering my creativity and my potential, I was actually able to bring value and contribution to a mentor. And I'd say, really excited to share one of the quickest ways we can really make a name for ourselves in an industry and step out in entrepreneurship is, serving somebody else's vision at first. But at every point comes where we need to make that transition out of serving somebody else's version and finding what is our unique blueprint or unique fingerprint in the marketplace.
Totally.
So, I served a couple years working for Nick, Life on Fire, as lead coach of that company. Of work with, had the opportunity to work with hundreds of entrepreneurs, just helping them create clarity around their vision, coaching them, accountability, getting results, not just in life, but also in business. My mentor, Nick, and his business partner, Brian Delaney, might have heard of him, might have not, but these are some big names in the marketing industry. They collaborated together through a big big promotion between Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, and Russell Brunson. And we ended up being in the top 5 JV affiliate partners with Tony Robbins, Dean, and Russell Brunson.
Let's go.
So I had the opportunity to be a part of that joint venture with them, doing a lot of the stuff behind the scenes, working on YouTube ads and, seeing what's going on behind the scenes in marketing. So I really feel like I have a unique perspective to bring, not just in like the life coaching and personal development sphere, but also when it comes to like the practical application and marketing and putting ourselves out there.
Dude, I love it. I love it. So that's kind of a great segue, like your backstory and everything that you've been through. And it's so cool seeing the transition coming from, the Navy it was, right? To now being an entrepreneur and then going into an organization like Life on Fire and bringing so much value and becoming a lead coach yourself. Right. You really tapped into, I'm curious, in the military, did you feel like you got to tap into your creative side at all?
Yeah, so this is actually really funny. I never thought of myself as a creative person, right? Just to give you guys even more backstory. I was the kind of person in high school, like I did not take any theater or art classes, like nothing I was all math, science, engineering, right? I actually went to Virginia Tech for aerospace engineering because I thought I was going to be an engineer, right? And I just had completely dismissed myself as a creative person. And, it didn't work out in college. Just didn't want to be a cubicle and sit. I didn't want to sit in a cubicle for the rest of my life writing programming. Didn't really know why that didn't excite me. And I was like, I need adrenaline. I need adventure, and so that's when I decided to join the military, and did one of the most adrenaline junkie things I could possibly do, which is fly in helicopters, shoot machine guns, hunt submarines, and jump out of helicopters and rescue people. Right. This is like the most adrenaline thing I could do, but there wasn't really an outlet for creativity. And so I just couldn't figure out why I went from thing to thing to thing, identity of wanting to be an engineer, identity of wanting to be a rescue swimmer, Navy, air crewman, just from thing to thing, and nothing ever really stuck. And that's what I'm excited to share is, how I made that transition from being a technical person to really discovering that I am a creative, and that's what I'm called to do and my contribution to the marketplace.
At what point in that transition and into that journey did you start going, I have a creative side and I really want to tap into it?
Right. So like I said, it was during this journey of transitioning out of the military, not knowing who I was, and basically starting over from scratch again, right? And you got to imagine, it's like at this point in life, it's like feeling like a failure, because I went to one of the top engineering schools in the country and dropped out. And then I was in the Navy for 5 years, and don't need to go into all of it, but some things happened with an ex ex in my life who was suicidal and just a lot of drama, self-harm, mutilation stuff going on that actually affected my flight status. And I wasn't able, I actually ended up losing my flight status, long story short. So I transitioned out of the Navy a year earlier than I intended. And so you got to imagine, like, at this point, I'm feeling like a failure and at the lowest point of my life, not knowing who I am, not knowing what it is that I stand for. And I just remember on this personal development journey, getting plugged in with Life on Fire, going to these events that I had like never even heard of. And I picked up this copy of this book, and it's called The Artisan's Soul by Erwin McManus. And Erwin McManus is a pastor of Mosaic Church up in Los Angeles. And I remember reading this book, and he said that, there's a lot of Christians out there. I identify myself as Christian. I don't know who your audience is. I'm always going to be descriptive when it comes to my faith and never prescriptive, but this is just my story. And I'm reading this book, and it said, as a lot of Christians discount themselves as being creative people. But we're all made in the image and likeness of God, and he's the creator of everything. And so if you're made in his image and his likeness, and he's the creator of everything, then you are also a creative by default. And I just remember reading the book. It was like first chapter, and I was like, and then I shut the book and I put it on a shelf, and I never read the rest of the book, because that was all I needed, man. Like, there was a shift in my mindset in a moment that had this epiphany, this aha, that wow, I am a creative, and I never even considered that in my life. And so it was kind of this journey of just trying to discover, like, what is creativity? How do I actually find that? How do I express myself in that? And so at the time, I was plugged into a church in San Diego. It was called C3 Church at the time. It's now rebranded itself as Awaken Church, and they were actually doing a creative internship. And it was designed as this thing where you get to figure out your creativity. And the avenue of creativity that interested me the most was video. I've seen people like doing videos, and you see the videos on the big screen, and people that do it so well. And I always admired them, and I was like, oh, I want to figure out how to do that, right? So I spent this whole year doing a creative internship, working for free for the church. And it was in that process that I really discovered, like, wow, I'm actually really good at this stuff. I'm really good at making videos. I'm really good at marketing. I'm really good at branding and sound design, and figuring out the right shots and the sequences and how things can go to tell a story. And that creativity is ultimately what served me. It's not what I'm doing now, but it's a really cool story how that creativity actually served as the platform that propelled me to where I am today.
So powerful, and I'm glad I asked what I asked, because we got to hear you really emotionally. You could tell you went through that low, right?
Right.
And when you were getting out of the military and those tough times, and what I love about everybody's story is we all have a story. It's crazy. As a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end. And on that journey, you always hear the heroic story, this person in this place of this struggle.
Right.
And if people would just understand that we all go through it, the most successful people in the world doing the most incredible things, they've all endured through the dip to get where they're at. But then at that low, opportunities came into your life that opened up doors for you to realize things about your identity that you didn't even know. That is so cool. So let's perfect segue right here. And I know you're passionate about talking about this, Casey, and I want to give you the platform to talk about it. Define what creativity is.
Yeah, man. So I truly believe, and again, I'm going to be descriptive and never prescriptive when it comes to, like, my personal faith and, the lens in which I see the world. But I truly believe that creativity is the ability to envision and create things that don't exist yet. So, the Bible talks about speaking things that are not as though they are. So everything that we see, like if I pick up this cell phone, right? This existed as a concept in somebody's mind before it was ever actually manifested in reality, right? It existed as a concept. Somebody was thinking, you know what, it would be really cool if to have a rectangle box that you could put up to your ear and then talk to somebody on the other side of the world, right? So I really believe that creativity is this ability to see things that don't exist and actually bring them into fruition into the world. And that has different applications. There's applications of creativity, not just in like art and, painting and drawing, those are creative expressions. Like how somebody can just take a blank piece of paper and draw something that doesn't exist. Like, I don't know how they do that, but they do. And that is one avenue of creativity, but it's also the practical application when it comes to, as entrepreneurship. You see a problem that exists in the market and you conceptualize an idea or visualize an idea of how we can bring about a solution to that problem. And then you actually go out and do it, right? So the creativity happens when we segue from idea, concept to actually implementation and action. And we're going to go deeper into that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess like in defining that, you said like there's multiple types of creative. Well, how does somebody unlock and discover maybe what their version of creativity is to them? Because everyone, it can be different, right?
Right. Exactly. So, I think it's really important to understand, like a context when it comes to the personal development industry, right? So we got two extreme sides of the spectrum when you look at the whole personal development industry. You got the people like Gary Vaynerchuk, right? And
right.
I think you said you got some like mentorship from Gary, right?
Yeah, I've seen Gary speak. I've spoken to Gary. I've met him a few times. I've been following for years and years and years before he blew up. I think I was 18, so 8 years ago is the first time I started following Gary V.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And it's like, it's so good to get all these different perspectives and really live in the tension, right? Because, you have one person that says this is how you should be doing things. Then you have another person that tells you something that seems like the complete opposite. And then we get to look at these different perspectives and live in the tension between them. But when it comes to our creative expression and personal, in the personal development industry, I think you got two sides of the extreme. You have people more like Gary Vaynerchuk that are very like hustle culture, go out and grind. Like you need to get out there and be doing, son. And if you're not grinding and spending 80 hours a week on your business, then you don't care. And, it's like, and there's that side when it comes to business, but then there's like another perspective. If you guys like pay attention to law of attraction and people that listen to like The Secret, right? And they're like, oh, well, if you just, ask the universe for whatever you want, it'll just magically come to you, right?
Yeah.
And so like we live with these like two different extremes of, one is very action oriented and the other one is not. It's like, just wait and be who you are and then everything will magically come to you. And when we look at, I think it's really interesting on, how God or the universe gives us, clues into how the world actually operates and how the universe actually operates. Because, when you look at the act of making a baby, it takes two to tango, right? And so, we may look at this one extreme of hustle, grind culture, going out, doing it, working hard as more of like a positive or masculine energy associated to it, right?
Right.
And then we might look at the other extreme of just wait and be, and, the universe will bring you what you want. Law of attraction as more of like this, feminine place or like a negative energy, right? And when you look at the process of creation and what actually happens in nature, it takes both the masculine and the feminine. It takes two to tango to bring a baby out into the world. And so I was having this really interesting conversation with somebody in our mastermind. His name was Jeff. And he was of the opinion that creation was more of a feminine energy. And I was like, well, I don't know if you've ever read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and the last chapter in the book, and they talk about sexual transmutation and like using up that pent up testosterone to go out in the world and create, right?
Channel that. Yeah.
Channel that. But so it just had this epiphany, like this aha moment where it was like, wow, it's actually a combination. It's living in the tension of both and learning to tap into that. And so what I discovered, and I've been testing this out with my clients, is it's really easy to get caught in the doing mode, grinding mode, working harder. And it can be really easy to burn ourselves out as entrepreneurs or creatives. But then the other extreme is, it's also easy to spend a lot of time getting ready to get ready and waiting and not really translating, ideas and creative insight into actual action and implementation, right? And so the magic really happens when we learn to balance these two sides of the coin and these two different energies. And so when I'm working with my entrepreneurs, the best thing that I can do to support them is not tell them what to do, but to manage their state and where are they at energetically. And so when somebody's saying things to me like, oh, you know what, Casey, I need to do this. I have to do this. I should do this. And I'll come back and I'm like, you're shoulding all over yourself. Stop shoulding. Stop shoulding all over yourself, right? Like when we're using those words in NLP, we call it modal operators of necessity. And it's already coming from a place of scarcity. It's coming from a place of lack. Like, oh, I need to do something. I have to do something, right? It's almost like this energetic drain on us. But then I start asking questions like, all right, well, yeah, those are things that you feel like you need to, or you should do. You're shoulding, right? But what are you excited to do? What do you get to do? What do you want to do, right? Like what energizes you? And when we start asking questions like that, then it's no longer I need to, I have to, I should. It's like, oh, I get to do this. I want to do this. I'm committed to doing this. And when we're in that state of mind and that energy, that's where the creative potential just starts to flow out. It's what I call flow. So I'm on a roll. What other questions?
Dude, you're crushing right now. I'm just listening. So I did throw out for anybody watching the live right now, if you guys have any questions throughout this, the coolest thing about doing these live streams and the show live is in real time, you can ask questions to high level guys like Casey. I'm going to encourage you to take full advantage of that if you get the opportunity. He says, Justice Jones says, I try to stay in my natural state where I'm enjoying the moment and the process of the task at the hand. So not really, a question, but more a statement. I think it's interesting that you tied in, masculine and feminine energy into creativity, because I've never heard that perspective on creativity, but I couldn't agree more with you. And I believe that life is a balance, and all of us men have feminine energy in them, right? And women have masculine energy. What is maybe some tips and some tricks that you would share with the audience to help kind of identify and to transmutate that into their creative self and really discovering that within? Are you there, Casey? Did I lose you? Let's see here, I might have lost him. Bear with me. We might be having connection issues, guys. Casey, are you with me, brother? All right, temporarily lost Casey. Gonna get him back in here, guys. This is a perfect opportunity to drop some questions below that you guys have for him. Such an incredible subject we're diving into tonight, unlocking your creativity. Let's see here. I need to versus I get to with George. What I'll do right now is give some shout outs to you guys in here while we're waiting for him to get back in. Shout out to Justice Jones. Shout out to Max Bergstrom, George Apicicea, whose apartment I'm actually in downtown San Diego, California. I appreciate you, brother. Taylor Peebles. Shout out to you guys. Drop some questions below. Let me shoot Casey a message. Make sure we get him back in here. And we will keep the show rolling. As they say in show business, the show must go on. to make sure that you guys are seeing me too. Can you guys drop a comment below and let me know if I'm still live right now? Let me know if I'm live, if you guys can hear me, if you guys can see me, and if we have a good connection. I am traveling right now, so chance it could be a little bit shaky. All right, George says I'm live. We're looking good there. Can see me. Justice says we're good on that. All right, well, while we wait for Casey to get back in here, come on, guys, give me 3 questions to ask him when I get back on. I know you guys have it in terms of unlocking your creativity, that masculine, that feminine energy. What are some things that you want me to pull out of Casey that we can ask him live tonight to deliver some tremendous value to all of you? Okay, we got Taylor's got one. What exactly does timeline therapy entail? So we'll make sure we get that one. Help me get 2 more questions for him. All right, he's working on getting back in here right now. All right, we got him back, guys. He's connecting.
What's happening, bro?
There he is. I can hear him.
Yeah, man, the internet just completely reset itself. So it looks like we're back online. I'm gonna jump back on my laptop here in a sec.
Perfect, perfect. No worries, man. The show must go on. Got a question for you too that we'll dive into once we get you on here. All right, so we're gonna kick the phone, add the computer, and we are good.
Dude, we're back on, bro. The internet killed itself.
Hey, man, that's part of the fun, right? Like, I love doing live shows because so much more can go wrong, and what's more fun with that?
Let's go.
Let's go, baby. Okay, so diving back into that, I did have a question from Taylor Peoples, and she said, what exactly does timeline therapy entail?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I don't know how familiar people are with neuro-linguistic programming. But when you break down, it's quite a mouthful, right? Neuro-linguistic programming. It's like this whole definitely big mouthful. And so when I really break down what it actually means, I'd say neuro-linguistic programming is a model for modeling excellence in behavior and communication. And so, there's been multiple, the thing about NLP, the reason it hasn't been trademarked or, copyrighted is because it's not actually, you can't package or you can't trademark communication. All it is a study of excellence in communication and behavior. So it's a model for modeling excellence. And so, there has actually been 2, it's modeled off of 2 excellent communicators. So the first one is, his name is Milton Erickson, and he's an expert. He was a world-renowned hypnotherapist, and what he was really good at in his communication is being artfully vague in his communication to get breakthrough, get results. I don't know if anybody's ever been nagging you and trying to tell you what to do, right? And you feel like, oh, this person doesn't understand me. Well, when we're artfully vague in communication, you see this all the time with politicians. They'll have this really vague campaign slogan like "Make America Great Again" or "Hope, Change," where there's no specificity as to what we're actually being hopeful or about or wanting to change. Right? It's vague enough for us to be able to fill in our own meaning and apply it in our own context. And then the other side, it was this woman, her name is Virginia Satir, and she's a world-renowned marriage and family therapist. What she was really good in her communication is being really specific, right? So getting down to the root cause, the root issues of what's actually going on, because we all have lenses through which we see the world. And sometimes the problem we think is a problem in interpersonal relationships is not actually the real problem. And so by chunking down, getting more specific. So where timeline therapy comes in, so the person that invented timeline therapy actually worked with the original inventors of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and that was Richard Bandler and John Grinder. And so this guy, Tad James, he developed what's called timeline therapy. And all it is a process of eliciting your timeline. Our unconscious mind perceives time in a way that is unique to every single one of us. And a lot of times we have traumas and certain places in our life where we made a decision or a limiting belief was actually installed in that moment, or we experienced some like extreme emotions and baggage that we can still hold on to unconsciously. And so what we do in timeline therapy is actually use a lot of the methods that were taken from NLP and how the unconscious mind works with sights and sounds and auditory and all the different modalities, which we process information, and using it in a timeline concept and looking down on and removing ourselves from being in an associated state, reliving the trauma actually through our own eyes, like a lot of traditional therapists would do, but actually disassociating from the event and looking down on it in order to reframe and repurpose the context of what that event or trauma or emotion actually served. So when we're able to like actually separate ourselves from the emotion rather than like going back and reliving it constantly, which actually reinforces the trauma, timeline therapy allows us to actually like disassociate it from it, process it, create it in reframe it, and put it in, apply it in a new context in a way that serves us rather than as limiting us, if that makes sense.
That's so powerful. That's the first time I've ever heard that. She did ask, is it like shadow work? Which I'm not even that familiar with.
I'm not sure about what shadow work is. Never heard of it.
But it's like taking a moment in the timeline of your life, and maybe it was a traumatic moment, almost raising yourself to the 30,000 foot view, right, and reframing the perspective on it to empower you rather than traumatize you more. Am I kind of taken away from that?
That is a perfect way of putting it, man. It can get pretty like deep and technical when it comes to so all of us, there's that age of being like 0 to 7 years old. And this is usually the time in which we, create our model of the world. And we all have beliefs, attitude. That's where our beliefs, our attitudes, our values are basically installed in our brain because, we're highly impressionable in those 0 to 7 ages in our life. And so it actually builds upon Gestalt therapy a little bit as well. This guy named Fritz Perls, who discovered that if you can get down to the root cause of some of these like traumas and events that happen in our early adolescent 0 to 7 imprint period, then we can actually break off the root limiting belief or trauma or irrational like belief that was installed. And what we'll find is it usually plays a pattern and plays a loop throughout our entire lives. The same thing.
Absolutely.
Keep coming up over and over.
Every
and over
limiting
again.
belief in every adult person I've ever met ties back to, you'd call a spot on the timeline of childhood.
Yep.
That is the root cause of why they act or behave or have an identity in a certain way. So this is the art of going back and basically doing the therapy that you need to heal that limiting belief so that it no longer shows up today, right?
Right. Yeah. And you know what? I actually think this can segue back to the creativity that we were talking about a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because it's like when we all have, so how does this become creativity? How do we tap into our creativity is like the theme of this show today. So we all have things in our life that we've overcome that make us who we are, right? We all have trials. We all have been through struggles, challenges. Nicholas barely our man Nicholas likes to say, your mess becomes your message, right? And if you haven't taken the struggle and reframed it in a new context, it's going to continue to hold you back, right? And it's just going to keep playing the same cycle over and over and over again until we do something about it, until we choose to let go of our attachment to that identity. Because what happens is when, we experience something in that age, we identify with it so much. Like, for example, me making the decision that I'm not a creative person. And it all went back to, I was getting babysitted by this kind of mean woman, and I had a piece of paper, and I was, had all these colored pencils and crayons, and I was like scribbling all over the place. And she told me, and she's like, hey, you can't scribble. Don't scribble. That's not art. That's not creativity. Don't do that. And so it's like in that moment, I made a decision. You know what? I guess I'm not a creative person.
You said I'm not. I'm young. It traumatized me. I'm not going to pursue this anymore. I'm not drawing.
Right. Exactly. So it's like these events that have happened to us, if we can reframe them in a new context, and they're no longer holding us back, and they just become part of our story, and they become part of our testimony, then there's a shift in our identity that happens. And so a shift in my identity happened when I broke that limiting belief that I'm not creative, and I made a decision, I am creative, and I'm going to tap into that potential, right? And that was part of my story, which now serves as a testimony to get to help other people tap into their creativity. So for anybody that's listening to this, you have a unique challenge, you have a unique struggle, you have something that you persevered through and overcame, or maybe you're still going through it. But I want to encourage you that if you can get through whatever's going on right now, look back, get to the root cause, reframe it in a new context, that story can actually be what serves to propel you forward in your vision and in your creativity. Because from our story, we have a stance. There's something that we stand for, something that we want the world to know, something that causes like a righteous indignation, something that pisses us off. And then we get to share that on a platform, right? And that platform can be through we live in an information age. We live in an information economy. Like there's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, podcasts. There's so many different mediums of information being streamed at us 24/7 that get to determine the way that we think and the way that we act and how we feel and how we perceive the world, right? And so
this is a great segue where you're at right now. Let's go about either you're a consumer or you're a creator. So let's segue into that from this, which I'm assuming is where you were going with this anyways.
Perfect, man. Yeah, if you ever need to keep me on track, dude, feel free to just cut me off.
No, you're good, bro.
I get these like roles. But yeah, we all get to choose, right? So we live in an information economy. We all know that. You look at who owns the means of production in an information economy. It's typically big tech. It's mainstream media. It is, it's Hollywood, Disney, right? And they hold the majority of the creative capital. And most people are using their creativity to serve somebody else's vision. And so the question is, how do we break that mold? How do we break that cycle and get that creative talent, or I like to call it creative capital, out of the hands of the big tech companies and utilize it to build our own vision? Right?
Because you're very much somebody that, and sorry to interrupt, that is all about for ages and ages and years, all of the creatives of this world were sucked into big corporations and put work to build their dreams. And in knowing you and what you stand for, you're about that freedom from that, right? Like showing creatives that you are a creative and you do have this potential, but you can also break free of that and be a creative in the world as an entrepreneur. Right.
Yeah. We all get to choose, man. We can be consumers, and I say this because this word might be even a little bit more harsh because I love you guys. We all get to choose. We can be consumers or conformers, right? We can be conformers to society and just how it's going. You see the verticalization and monopolization of creative talent into these big companies, or we get to be creators. Never before in the history of humankind have we had the opportunity and the platform and the ability that anybody with a cell phone can be a creator of content. And so we all get to choose. Do you want to be like do you want to be like everybody else that's consuming content and, conforming to society in the way that they think we should think? We think all the mainstream medias are different outlets, but the reality is that they're all being verticalized into the same conglomerate of owners, right? Like, I'm not trying to get conspiracy theory or political right now. It's just the truth.
It's
right?
true, though. There's big corporations that own all of that creativity that goes to them, and
right.
all of the monetization as well.
Right. Whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, I mean, I think this should concern all of us that the verticalization of all the creative talent and information distribution and media is all being verticalized into, a few large corporations, right? And so this is where we all get to make the decision where we can let the mainstream determine the way that we think and we act, or we can create our own vision. And so that's the question, is how do we take our creative talent and actually begin to carve out our unique expression in a noisy marketplace?
And isn't that the question? How do we carve out our unique expression in a noisy marketplace? I had to say that again because it's so true. So how do we do that, Casey? How does one in such a noisy world stand out from everyone else with their creativity?
Right. Yeah, that's the exciting part. So, I mean, I have a few tools for you guys. So the first one I like to call is the 3S strategy. And I was touching on it a little bit, but 3S stands for story, stance, strategy. And so that's where we go into, taking our story, what we've overcome, who we are, and framing it. Our mess becomes our message, right? And the stance is that message. It's the thing that we stand for, that we want the world to know, right? And then the strategy, that's the creative expression. The strategy is what is the method of implementation where we get to choose. There's our strategy for expressing our creative potential could be through any different number of mediums. Cody, for you, you started this Motivation Everything, and it's starting out as a live stream podcast, right? And you're going to be putting it on a podcast. For some people, it might be a podcast. For others, it might be a YouTube channel. For others, it might be, growing their Instagram. For others, it might be, just getting out there and building a big company, right? Entrepreneurship. And when it comes to deciding what that strategy of implementation is that works the best for us, I go back to the energetic, and the emotional pull that we get as far as which one of these expressions excites you the most.
What makes you come alive? What makes you
right.
passionate? Because at the end of the day, there is something like, have you ever done something that you just hated doing and it drains you? But then this right here naturally could take a lot out of people, but I love this so much that I could do this all day long and not get drained.
Right. It's figuring out what is your creative outlet that energizes you, that you love it so much you can continually do it, and you do it for free. I'm sure you, Cody, you love doing these interviews and you do them all day long. You don't even have, you do get paid. You make a living doing what you do, but this excites you and energizes you and makes you come alive so much that even if you weren't getting paid, I could see
still
you still doing this.
100%.
Right?
I did it before I got paid.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the key, is most people think they get paid right away. Tap into that creative lane, make your lane. And you said something at the beginning, and I appreciate the kind words. Be consistent with what you do. My start was 30-sec motivation check videos. I've done over 200 of them, and I've never missed a day.
Yes. It's the thing that, it really comes down to consistency and perseverance. And so, if we're coming from a place of I need to, I should, I have to, never going to stick with it. Never going to stick with starting your own show or doing your own YouTube channel or starting your own podcast. We'll never stick with it. But if it's coming from a place of identity, of like, I get to do this because I'm excited because this is who I am. When it's coming, if you want to shift, if you want to change any habit and be consistent, we got to shift our identity first. And it starts with shifting an identity of I'm no longer a consumer, I'm a creator, and I'm committed to finding my avenue in which I'm going to express my creativity. And this is the one I'm going to do because I'm the most excited about, I'm the most passionate about. And what I do, my show doesn't flow from a place of striving or just working harder or grinding harder. It flows out of a place of who I am, a renewed identity.
Amen, brother. That's powerful. What would you say to the person? Because what I've learned is we're all different. You have different strengths and different weaknesses than I have. You have different personality profile. You have your own creative side to you that could be completely different than mine. There are people out there, and maybe it's someone watching this show. Maybe it's someone that watches the replay. And maybe they've even discovered their creativity and what makes them come alive, but they're scared, Casey. They're scared of even trying. They're scared of failing. They're scared of if they do it and they make it, maybe they can't handle it. What would you say to that person?
Right. So here's the thing, man. And again, I'm going to be descriptive of my faith, not prescriptive on anybody. But I think it really comes down to, there's actually a story in the Bible, a parable of the talents, the talents, right? And there's these three different guys who are serving this king. One of them is given 1 talent, the other one's given 2 talents, the other one's given 3 talents, right? And the 2 guys that are given 2 and 3 talents, they take, so we all have gifts and talents, right? I think it's ironic that they're called talents, but it's actually like gold. We're all given unique gifts and talents. And the 2 people with 2 and 3 talents, they go out and they multiply what was given to them. They multiply what was entrusted to them. Right. And they come back and the king says, well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful with the little, I will bless you with much. And then the first guy comes back. He only had 1 talent. And he said, I was scared. I took my talent and I buried it in the ground because I thought you were a harsh man. And the king comes back and he says, you wicked and lazy servant. Like, couldn't you have at least put it in the bank so that I could get interest? And he's like, take the talent away from you and give it to the others who were faithful. And, I'm going to throw you in the dungeon. There'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Right. And it's like, there is fear when it comes to using our gifts and talents. But I can tell you as somebody, and this is the one part of my story I didn't get to share. If you're scared, like I know it's sometimes we don't have clarity on how to go out and build our own vision. But if you're faithful with somebody else's vision, I really believe that God's going to bless you with your own vision. If you're faithful with what's another man's, then God or the universe can trust you with your own vision. And so for me, I got really good at this creativity stuff, right? And I got really good at making videos, inspirational, motivational videos. And my mentor, Nick, who, he was somebody I just wanted to get closer to, right? We weren't actually that close yet. He was more like, I paid to be a part of his community and I just wanted more of this guy's time. And I heard him talking over and over again about how he wanted to make inspirational videos that were sharing God stories and miracles and kind of like the Goalcast brand. And it was just where his heart was at. And so I used my gifts, my talents of creativity and making videos without him asking to just go and made this inspirational video. And I'm not even joking when I spent probably like three days straight making this video, staying up all night, editing, doing all the B-roll, cutting the footage, getting the soundtrack exactly the way it was supposed to go. I spent 3 days working my tail off on this thing. And I sent it to him and he was like almost in tears. He's like, dude, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for. This is exactly. And when I made that video, God showed me a vision. He said, like, there's going to be 1 million people that watch this video. And I just looked at the number a couple weeks ago and they just hit 1 million viewers. But that,
dude, congrats. That is an amazing win.
Yeah, it's and it's so funny because I'm not even doing video anymore, but it was like that, the creativity, serving another man's vision, it built the relationship and bridged the gap in friendship and relationship between me and Nick. And now I have a mentor. I have somebody that's been pouring into me, investing in me, showing me the ropes, teaching me everything he knows, giving me more and more responsibility. And I'm just growing in leadership and development and just refining my skills. And, he pays for me to get certified in NLP and timeline therapy and hypnotherapy. And next thing I know, I'm co-training events with my mentor. I'm co-trainer at these events. And I'm working with, literally hundreds of entrepreneurs getting to change their lives. And so if you can just start with that one little piece of creativity that you can use to solve somebody's problem, if you have a heart to serve, if you have a heart to seek out opportunities and find problems and walk through open doors and opportunities that are available to you, I promise you that creativity will multiply and you will be entrusted with more. And all of a sudden you will have a platform in which to express your own creativity and get your own message out to the world.
Yeah, what's interesting about this story is we live in a world where everything is at our fingertips, like you said. And, you can just take a phone and you can speak to it and you can grow a following and you can have influence. Do you feel like right now it's becoming popular to become an influencer? It's becoming popular to become a coach. It's becoming popular to become an entrepreneur. That so many people are trying to go to master before they ever learn how to apprentice and learn the process to do what someone that's really good at this does. I'm curious, what's your take on that?
Dude, I love that perspective. I mean, it's kind of funny, you look back at how the economy worked back in like medieval days, right? And you had people that had trades. So you had people that were blacksmith, right? Or what's another medieval profession?
I slip in my mind too, but I get what you're saying. There was all these different trades. Yeah.
It's like if you wanted to be a blacksmith, right? You didn't go to blacksmith school, right? You were an apprentice under the blacksmith. You would literally leave your own family and go live with the blacksmith and work and serve under them as an apprentice, right? Because we had skills and trades. And I think what's interesting in this coaching industry, right, is a lot of people do want to brand and label themselves as coach, but it really comes down you want to find your unique expression in a noisy marketplace of everybody's an influencer and everybody's a coach, right? Well, first, stop making it all about you, right? And start thinking about the people and actually solving other people's problems, because there are a lot of influencers it's all about them and they're not actually solving any problem, right? But then there's people that have a heart to serve, and money is the natural byproduct of serving people and solving problems, right? So if we can get even more niche down from just this, kind of vague coaching title and get more specific as to what is my specific problem that I am solving in this noisy marketplace where there's 100 billion other coaches. My unique expression is I help entrepreneurs tap into their creativity. But life coach is a little bit broad, and anybody can get, a life coaching certificate, by spending $27 and going through an online course.
100%. Yeah, it's just so interesting. And, I know for me, my journey started at 18 years old. And it was when I first was intersected and introduced to personal development, public speaking. And it was 8 years, man. It was a long journey of having mentors, of having coaches, of joining masterminds, of reading books, of paying to go to seminars, going to events, studying, learning, watching other people, how they talk, what they do, what they say. Then I felt this year was really the time with COVID to step into fully creating a life around that. And I felt I was at the point in my life because of that. But I also know that I'm always learning, and a wise man knows he knows nothing. And the smarter I get, the more I learn, the more motivated I become, the more I go, whoa, I need more coaches. I need more mentorship. I need to learn more so I can pass on more.
Come on.
Let's go.
It's the ripple effect, man. Like so here's the thing. I truly believe like creativity is the avenue in which we bring heaven on earth, right? things that don't exist yet, speak things that are not as though they are. And, you know, and you really get to how you know you're doing a good job or you're being a good steward of your gifts and talents in this world is by examining the ripple effect that we're having, right? So it's like when I look at people like Cody, and he's using his creative expression, you know, motivation, everything show to reach people that haven't been reached. And he's building a tribe and he's building a community, and and he has the opportunity to raise other people up and pour into them and invest in them. Right. And then as soon as that transition happens from when somebody that Cody's been mentoring and coaching and building up, then all of a sudden they go out and they start building their own tribe and mentoring and creating their own community and finding their own creative expression in the marketplace. That's how we know that Cody's done a great job. And I know, and I can already see it, man. It's like you've got a really motivated group of people who are hungry to find their creative expression. Like you were working with some hustlers in the marketplace, like people that really have a desire for something more. And so that's what I'm so excited, man, is to see, you know, where you are in 5 years, 10 years, and all the people that you have coached and mentored and consulted and poured your heart and soul into, to see where they're at and how there's just going to be this whole conglomerate of ripple effect based on the seeds that you've been sowing right now in this season.
Amen, brother. And, you know, I truly believe, going back to that creative sense, that what blows my mind is, and, you know, I was asked by a mentor one day, and he said, Cody, and I'll ask you this too. He said, what breaks your heart in the world? And that was such a profound and a big question, Casey, to hear, you know, what breaks my heart in the world? And I thought about that for weeks, and I prayed on it and I meditated on it. And I arrived with the answer of, so many people don't step into who God created them to be. And in and through those, you talk about how, you know, the king gave the talents. And there was the servants that went and multiplied it, and there was a servant that buried it in the ground. Well, what's sad is most people bury that in the ground, and it goes to the grave with them. And the world never sees it. You talk about someone creating these phones, this laptop. I walk around and I look at buildings and I look at cars and I look at creative designs and creations. I say, somebody thought of that. Somebody followed through with their dreams. Somebody created that. Because of that, we benefit in and through that. So I truly feel I was put on this earth, and I know you do too, to help people tap into that identity that God created in them, and in and through that, step into that and bless the world and multiply their gifts into the world. We need to wake more people up. More people need to realize that they were created for fucking greatness. Excuse my language. And it's almost, you're doing a disservice to the world by not waking up and giving it away.
Preach.
Let's go. But Casey, what breaks your heart in the world, my guy?
Yeah, it's exactly what you've been sharing, man. Nothing pisses me off more than, you know, people using their creative gifts and talents to serve a narrative that they don't want to stand behind, right? And it's like, I want to break that cycle, the mold of this monopolization of creative talent. And like I said, I call it creative capital. And I want to take that power back and bring it back into the hands of people where it belongs. And never before in society have we had the unique opportunity that literally anybody with a cell phone can pick something up and start recording and start building a movement and building a tribe. And so my vision is to build a tribe, a conglomerate of creatives who tap into their creativity, shifting mindsets around creative potential and what it actually means. Whether people say that, you know, I'm not creative, I never thought of myself as creative, or people say, well, I'm a creative, so I have to be broke. Right? And using those gifts and talents to actually serve and build their own vision rather than spending their whole lives working and building somebody else's vision. And that's what I feel like I'm called to do, my man.
Boom, man. Casey, how can people connect with you and be a part of the journey and the value that you are bringing?
Yeah, dude. Thanks so much again for the opportunity. And so you can subscribe to me for updates. In the new year, I'm currently having a website built right now, building this brand. It's called the Kingdom Collective Company, where entrepreneurs and creatives are going to have the opportunity to network, collaborate, joint ventures, strategic partnerships. They're going to have the opportunity to work together to fill these needs in society, right? And so that website's going to be launched in January 2021. And in the meantime, you can subscribe to me for updates. Just follow me on Instagram, Casey, CASEY, period, Thornton, THORNTON00.
Boom. Guys, motivation, everything. You need to go follow Casey Thornton if you're not right now. This guy has so much value to bring to the world, and what he's bringing is Kingdom Collective.
Yes, Kingdom Collective Company. Yes,
what
sir.
he's bringing with Kingdom Collective Company is going to be out of this world. I've been following Casey for a while. There's a few people in the marketplace that I've gotten to meet like Casey that really inspire me to want to go do more, to want to be better, to want to step into my creative side and fully tap into that. And then through that, give it away to you guys. And if that's something that you want to harvest and you want to harness that potential and that gift and that creative side, I'm going to strongly encourage all of you to go follow him, to connect with him, and to really be a part of that because he's changing lives.
Yeah. Thanks so much, man. It's been an honor to be on your show. Like I said, follow this man, follow Cody, see where he is in 5 years, 10 years. I promise you, if you don't jump on the Cody motivation everything train now, you're going to wish that you did come 5 years from now. So it's been an honor and a privilege to be on here with you, man.
Appreciate you, man. This show was fire. I truly enjoyed this. I appreciate your time. I honor it. Guys, next week, same time, I'll be back hosting another Motivation Everything show, bring on another special guest so we can just constantly deliver value to you and help you in and through that, step into your God-given purpose and reach true fulfillment in your life. I appreciate you guys, and everybody have a wonderful Tuesday night. We're out.
Thanks so much, man. See you guys.